Well, this weekend I was off to visit my cousins, and they grew up near me in Wisconsin, but some of them moved to Florida, and my cousins are a bit older than me. And while I was out visiting my cousin, he and I were talking about vintage electronics. So this turns out like it's vintage electronics week for me. I don't know which video will come out first, but the Brady writer printer, I got that the other day, and now I've gotten this thing. This is from the Belle company or Belle Industries out of, some people would pronounce it Oconomowoc, but it's Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. And this is a moving message sign, an LED moving message sign from the early 1980s. And my cousin had this in his garage, in his basement, whatever. And the way he came upon it is kind of interesting because his brother, my other cousin, worked for Belle Industries. And there's more to the story than that, but I'll keep going with my cousin's brother. My other cousin worked for Belle. And when these came out, they had a sales rep in Florida. And this is going to date when this came out because they had bought this sales rep a brand new Chrysler minivan, which was the first minivan on the market in the early 1980s when Lee Iacocca was president of the Chrysler Corporation. And the sales rep had the minivan full of these, and whether he quit or got fired or whatever, my cousin lived down in Florida, and his brother said, "Hey, can you run over and get this minivan because the guy's no longer with him?" And the minivan was stocked with Belle sales merchandise to go demonstrate to people how this stuff worked. So he said, "Sure, I'll go over and get it." And he stored it. He had a daycare center at the time. He was a young guy, and he had a daycare. He and his wife had a daycare center, and he said, "Sure." And he stored it in the back of the daycare, the van. And then when his brother came down, his brother said, "Hey, I'll pay you like $100," which 1982 or something was a fair amount of money. He said, "I'll pay you $100." And my cousin said, "Actually, all I want is one of these moving message signs." So for the weekend, I was at my cousin's in Virginia. And he had moved this up there, and he had it in his storage room, and we're all getting on in a few years. I'm the youngest, and they're older. So he said, "Hey, when I were talking about vintage electronics, he said, I got something for you." So he pulled this out. But the second part is that one of my businesses, when I lived in Wisconsin, there was a guy named David Ewan, and Dave Ewan worked at Belle. And I don't remember if Dave was a CEO or a chief technology officer or something like that, but he was a young guy at the time, and he was really, really sharp with all kinds of electronics, digital and analog and all sorts of electronics. And he did a lot of design work for my company in Burlington, Wisconsin. And Dave Ewan was also based in Burlington at that point. He was from there, actually. But so Dave and I had talked a few times, and of course he knew my cousin, who was also Dave. So, kind of small world stuff and kind of fun for me to see some of this. But that's a little bit of a walk down memory lane, which if I were really polite, I'd put the skip ahead to 17 minutes and 24 seconds down here so you'd know when to skip all this yammer. But it won't hurt. So, what do we have? We have a model 102LA with a serial number here, which DV6010009, and I would not be 0009. I would not at all be surprised if this was the 9th one made of this series, because this would have been a sales demo, an early model, and I'll show you even more of this. Now, we just drove back from Virginia. We have a big enough van that I let my partner drive, and I sat in back with this plugged in and played around with it a little bit. So not quite a fresh unboxing, but close enough. So I did get to play with this a little bit, and I'll show you what I mean when I say that. So let's do a little bit of an unboxing here and just see what's inside. The power supply, which is pretty heavy, is a 120 volts, 50 watts in, it says, and 4 amps at 8.7 volts out. And I would be interested to see if that's what it is. It's made in Taiwan, but I think the rest of this thing we're going to find is made in the United States here of America. It's lost its little bumpers, I think. I presume it had it. But all it's going to do is it's going to convert a non-polarized plug here. I think. Yeah, non-polarized plug, US plug, North American plug to a barrel jack of some sort, but it's AC, so who cares whether it's center pin positive or negative? There is no such thing. I'm going to go right here to this keypad. So there's a keypad with a ribbon cable. I believe it's 20 pins. I counted 2 by 10. And it's a 2-row IDC pin header connection, 0.1 inch, 2.5 millimeter pitch. And then you have this keypad, which is a rubbery silicone style keypad. And on the back is the operating instructions. And you can see here it's LaBelle Industries in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, 53066. And I've been to Oconomowoc plenty of times. So I know very well, and I know where LaBelle was. I don't know what's there now, but I do know where LaBelle was. So that's in minty condition. I did see one on eBay, the keypad only for about $75 right now. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Here's the display itself. We used to say, or people a little older than me used to say, you got to take it out of the crate when you'd see those cars with the wood panel sides, those station wagons, the kind of Beach Boys-esque station wagons. So here you've got some simulated real wood grain vinyl on the top and on the bottom too, which the reason you do that is because, check this out. Not only do you have some keyhole slots in the back to mount this thing, but if we shake it a little, these tabs come out and you could hang a chain in your window like an open sign from 1975. So there's one on each side, these hang tabs, but they just either, you just drop it like this and they pop out and you'd be able to hang this thing. So then you'd want to see the bottom looking good, right? We can see through the bezel here, through the red bezel, we can see the LED modules. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, looks like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dots high. And I don't know how many are in each character module here. And I haven't taken this apart at all, I promise. I didn't have any tools in the van. Had I had tools in the van, I guarantee you I would have taken it apart because I have no patience. And then also in here, and somebody's going to be very happy about this because I've seen it more than a few requests on different websites of people asking for the documentation. Not only do I have the preliminary operating instructions for the LaBelle Info 152 LED programmable message display, but I also have the LASP technical data news in a tech note, news from LaBelle. I don't really see any dates on this other than 9746, but I'm quite sure this is not from 1997. I really am sure because Dave did not work there in 1997. In fact, in 1997, Dave was starting to design equipment for my company. So I know that was not 1997. I know that was a few years before, quite a few. So, I'm going to scan this and put that up there. But this is all about the serial protocol, which is either RS422. It says 485 here. I thought it was 422. But RS422, 45, 232 communication protocol. And all the things you need, including here you have the command format with the, I'll scan this and get that up there on the googly, but the pinouts, the dip switch settings, and so on. So that's the good news, but the bad news is it says here the info series units with the suffix SP include identical modes, functions, and so on with the addition of a serial command mode. I don't have an SP model. This is, if we look at the back of it, this is a 152, right? This is a 102. This is a LA, an Info 102 LA. And we said earlier that it's the DV6010009. So for those of you who are car buffs, the serial numbers match. So we're in good shape. This is high value at this point. So, and I hear something shaking. Let's see if I don't know if you can hear that. It sounds like one of those rain sticks where you turn it over and a bunch of stuff falls. So I've already turned this on, let's be honest. I'd love to tell you that we're going to discover it together and be that awesome YouTuber, but I'm not awesome. I don't even know if I'm a YouTuber. I just make some silly content for people to watch and hope that you guys like it. So I'm going to plug this in anyway. I haven't done any voltage checks. I plugged it in with a with an inverter in the van. So let's see what this does here. You know, it would work really well would be if I turn the outlet strip on. I have a son named Jake, so I was playing around with Hello Jake. And if you see, I put one too many spaces in, or half space, I think, in here. So there you go. I think before we play around with anything on the screen on this, I think the best thing to do is to take it apart, baby. So let's find ourselves a number 1 Phillips, because I'm quite sure that's what it would take to dig into the meat of it. And let's see what we got here. So I'm going to unplug it and we'll get into the beans here right on camera. How terribly exciting. So this is the end with the 2x20 header here for the keypad. And it's an extrusion, an aluminum extrusion. So it should be these 4 screws. I think it might be a number 2 Phillips after all. Let's take a look here. It's a little wobbly in there. So let's try a number 2. Nope, it's a number 2. 4 screws and we should be set. Now, I believe if it had the SP serial port addition, that would stick out the side panel. You know what I'm going to do before I do that, I'm just going to look at this back. There's a panel here and there are dip switches in it. So that's the one that takes the number 1 Phillips. So let's take that one off first before we take the sides off. Little last minute change of plan from Nikki Does, showing you just how flexible and how much I live by the seat of my pants here. So here we've got a firmware chip, version 102.4 OLA, 12 of 85. So this is December of 1985 is what that firmware chip's. And I see a Zilog Z80 CPU. I see a little bodge. Let's keep going and let's dig into it. This is going to be fun. I am really looking forward to this. I love this old stuff that's a little bit obscure versus taking apart IBM 5150s that everybody's already explored. This is kind of cool because you get to look at something that a lot of people haven't seen. So there's the plate with the hang clips. Somebody had a good time with that. I can see a shadow of the aluminum manufacturer there. And also, interestingly, there's some keyhole slots in the side here. I would assume you could, the idea was going to be that you could gang these together. You'd be able to stick these together to make a long message sign out of some short ones. I mean, if you were speccing this product, the design of this product, wouldn't you say, especially in 1985, wouldn't you be saying, hey, let's make sure if we want to use this thing for other uses, it's going to apply for that? I sure would. I don't know if I need to pull that back out. Do I? It's in there. So there's the bezel. I'm going to take that out and set that somewhere carefully. It's a sheet of red whatever. And yeah, this is going to come right out. So there's the back panel. Set that over here too, carefully. Okay, back on camera. The control part is not real big, right? That's pretty amazing because the power supply and everything's in there. I think it's got a battery in it, by the way. I think it's battery backed up, which makes sense. So we're gonna have to see how that's working out. And then, that is going to come out as all one piece. All right, so there's our frame, 2 aluminum extrusions, identical. And at the other end is just like this end, only it didn't have the cutout for the keypad connector and power connector. So here is the LED modules. I'm looking in the reflection here on top. I'm going to kind of poke my face in here and look and see if I can see a name. I can't quite be sure on that. Yeah, I can't quite be sure. LS something, but I don't really see a name. And that looks like somebody took black magic marker and drew on top, because maybe you would see those. So I see what looks like, that sure looks to me like black magic marker, and then the bottom is white. So I have a feeling somebody saw that when you look down on it and said, we need to put some black magic. This stuff is so cool to me, how this comes to pass. So clearly and obviously a single-sided circuit board here. We have a lot of power supply going on. We've got a bridge rectifier on a heatsink. We've got a transistor on a heatsink, which is certainly, this is a switch mode power supply. And we've got 6 transistors in here. Motorola 539, TIP 120. Sorry, we've got 7 transistors on here. And they look all the same. So that's all power supply. A couple of large filter caps, which are still working well. I just see Japan on there. I can't really see a name, a brand name. 10,000 microfarads, 16 volts. And then this thing is a gold. Oh, it's a gold cap. Oh, it's not a battery. I got to tell you, Dave Ewan, top-notch electronics guy, really would push back if you wanted to do something crummy. So, and I suspect he was heavily involved, if not the designer on this. I'd love to see his DAU somewhere on this board. That would, I can't, he has bladder cancer, and unfortunately, I don't know if he's doing well or not. I talked to him about 6 months ago, and I have not checked in with him, so I'm going to have to do that. But top-notch design guy. I mean, really good guy. He did great work for us, too. The only thing I'll say negatively is that there's a lot of flux all over the board. This must be that, I would guess this big header is where the serial port stuff plugged in, because I see nothing in here that we could populate up and put a serial port on. But I do see an odd IDC header system here where there's some, I don't know what connector this is, where it's got flat pads and then some through hole and a separate, it's like a, I don't know, they look uneven. I don't know what that is. That's not a footprint I've seen before or remember seeing before. This ROM socket is a cartridge style thing. So the chip leads are bent around the corner, which is the sucky part about that is it's going to make it hard for me to extract the ROM data, because I'd have to bend the J leads. The leads are bent around the frame, if you see what I'm saying on that. So this chip doesn't fall out. So that's going to be a bummer to read that. I can't slide it into a ZIF socket. But we'll have to figure out a way to do that. Runs at 8 megahertz. So the Zilog, this is a Zilog Z80. It's a date code 8539, 39th week of 1985. Just taking a poke around here and see if I have some other date codes. I'm going to stick my face close to this. 8536. That might be an 82, but I'm not exactly sure about that. But if you think about this, not a lot of support logic going on here. And there are, though, underneath the LEDs themselves, I see some drivers going on there. So clearly not enough connections here for, what do we have? Each module is, I should know this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 by 7. Yeah, of course, these are 5 by 7 dot matrix, which was a really common size for quite a long time for these modules to be built. So 35 LEDs in the series, and there's some drivers underneath here to multiplex this. So yeah, and I see what looks like some hand soldering going on in here. Just it looks like this whole board may have been built up by hand, honestly. I would not be at all surprised. It just looks a little bit like it was hand soldered. Not positive of that. Have to take the back off to see, but I don't see the DAU, which he has on some of the boards that I had done. But maybe he wasn't doing that, or maybe Belle didn't allow them to do that. I don't know. There's some static RAM here. This is a, I'm squeezing in here to see, 6116 LP3, so that's a 300 nanosecond static RAM, 6116. And everything else here is 74 LS, kind of jelly bean logic. So you've got a ROM, a RAM, the Zilog processor, and some jelly beans. The gold cap from Mitsubishi, I don't know if that's a Mitsubishi, I don't know. 6.3 volts, 1 farad. Gold cap, that's a big bad boy right there. So I'd love to check that and see that that's still working. I hope it still is. It's really cool. Does that have a date code on it? I don't see one. 581K is on there. I don't know what that is. And I've seen that symbol before. I'll try to find that, the data sheet for that, or get the symbol up there and so on. But these bypass caps have something on them, some schmutzy stuff. I don't know what it is. All these little ceramic disc bypass caps down here. There's a bypass cap by the processor. Pretty much all this LS logic has bypass caps. These two don't, interestingly. Like I said, there's some flux on it. Looks like I said, it feels like it could have been hand soldered. Not exactly sure. So, yeah. And then I don't expect there's a lot in the keypad. Let's see what we've got around the keypad connector here. It all goes to the other side. I'm really wanting to know how they got the serial stuff going on here, but and is the firmware the same too? That's the other interesting part. So the keypad, most of the connections are on the other side, on the back side of the board. So I don't really know what's going to be in the keypad yet. Let's take a quick peek at that too and see what we can find. It looks like that's also a number 1 Phillips. It's an extrusion. How do you like the way I say that? Extrusion. I'm exuding excitement about the extrusion. Maybe it's my Wisconsin accent. All right. Yeah, a whole lot of nothing. I mean, it's cool, but it's a whole lot of nothing. Probably hand soldered. Here's the floppy keypad. So there's the board. It's not gold plated or anything. And this sure looks like it's hand soldered to me. It's just the matrix keypad brought back. So that's easy enough to simulate. If we wanted to simulate that, we could certainly simulate the keypad. Double stick tape to keep this flat ribbon cable on there. And I don't think I saw any locators to force the keypad to be in proper location, but there is this plastic. Now, it wouldn't be laser cut. This would be routed out somehow. Maybe some sort of CNC thing, but it would have been an early CNC. So, yeah, again, there's holes in the keypad to line this stuff up, but I don't see anything that would force that to be in line. And then we've got, of course, this sheet metal printed bezel. So it's this has been silkscreen printed. And I've done this type of product before also, where we do this sort of work. Probably, again, since Dave and I collaborated on some projects, probably we used the same vendors even. And back then, you know, the 80s, 90s, you didn't have the internet, and you certainly didn't go out to China for this kind of stuff. That just didn't happen. China wasn't very good at this sort of thing at that time. So, you know, you were pretty much U.S. vendors. You may have been Korea for some stuff, Taiwan for sure, but definitely not China at that point. All right. So, yeah, and then this one has a cutout. This end has a cutout for the cable. And this would have all been designed in probably some CAD, but some pretty basic, what you would be shocked. No 3D for sure. This would all be 2D at best. AutoCAD was certainly a thing. And if you wanted to do any 3D, you would be working in something called CAD Key, unless you were a huge company. I mean, Belle would not have had parametric technology, PTC. I don't remember the name of the thing, but they would not have been using parametric technologies stuff. What was that called? PTC software. I forgot now. Wasn't Creo or anything like that. That's way too new. It was their PTC's original product, and that ran on Unix workstations. Stuff that I was too young to touch. I could sort of drool over it and wish, but I certainly was too young to touch it. So, but I'm not anymore. Vintage stuff now. So yeah, there's the keypad. Nothing amazing in there. And we already got to take a good look at this. I'm not going to take this apart. I'm not going to look and see what's underneath here because that's all soldered together. And might have some fun checking out some power supply voltages. I do want to see that this super cap holds a charge. That'll be interesting. And I will do something to figure out a way to get this ROM out. Version 102.4.OLA, I believe is what's there. And if I remember right, OLA, wasn't this an LA? Yeah, this was maybe a Info 102 LA. So maybe the LA is because it's whatever that series was called here on the LA. So yeah, that's it for now. Let's see where it goes from there. Let me know if there's something in particular you want to know about this. I think might be kind of cool to do a little run through of the modes, but honestly, I didn't get that quite down yet, how to edit the messages. And really what I want to do is figure out how to do the serial port thing, because what I really want to do with this is show my massive YouTube subscriber count on the wall. That would make me so happy if I could write a little Python script to go make an API call back to the tube and get my subscriber count and start showing that on this moving message display that's from my family, that my family was involved in. That, to me, that would be that would make me really happy, honestly. And if not that, I would love to see it in some vintage computer museum on the wall, showing some sort of messages, welcome nerdy visitors, something like that. So in any case, thanks for watching this one. Let me know if you want to see a bunch more videos on this. Otherwise, it's hard for me to put the time in if nobody's real interested. So you know the usual. I would love it if you interact with me on YouTube. Thank you for watching.